A knife sharp.
Yeah.
Got my earrings fixed.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
good. Yeah, that's right. We did that. I don't know if you any of you saw there was a screen door that we did, and they put new screening in it. You know, the stuff that cats and dogs, the claws can't go through, and it
Oh,
went
yeah,
in
the
very
dog
well.
hole.
Right, right. But unfortunately, the bottom came out of it afterward,
Oh.
and I don't know what to tell you. You know, that's the risk. You know, it looks to me like somebody pressed against it, but we'll never know. But
Okay.
we had good times.
There's Ken.
There's something called GAE.
I miss Ken.
Hey, Ken.
Hi,
Leslie.
everybody.
Hello, Ken.
Hey,
Hi, Mike.
Okay.
I got a notification at 3 o'clock that somebody named Ryan had joined the meeting, I guess as a test. I don't know if anybody knows a Ryan or was expecting them.
And who is GAE?
Gay? Gay?
Yes, Gay. Who's that?
Can you hear me?
No,
Yeah.
Ken, yes.
This is Gaetana Charlante.
Oh,
Oh,
hi.
hi.
Anna.
Those are the first three letters of my name.
Oh, I got it. Got it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, well, I guess we got enough of her quorum here. So, so first thing is everybody got the minutes,
Yes.
and are we okay with that? Can we let them go? Do we need any more adjustment or anything?
I did notice, unless it was amended, I did notice Linda's name was not included under those present, Kevin. Was
And
it-
I don't
was
think
it-
I don't think I was there.
You weren't here the last time?
Correct.
Oh, well,
But
that's why I
didn't you
wasn't
talk
there.
about, no, didn't you give the announcement about the upcoming Repair Cafe at the end of the
don't-
meeting?
I think so.
I don't think so.
No?
Yeah, no, she wasn't there.
No, I couldn't be
It was
there.
a small group.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you had commented into the announcements about the cafe coming up. I thought I remembered you saying, oh, I have an announcement, and talked about the Repair Cafe coming up, but
Yeah.
okay, so if you
I
weren't
think
there,
that was the one
they
before.
they were all good. They were all good.
The other is that it's not purple rain, it's purple air. That's my.
I corrected that.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay,
Yep,
thank you.
yep,
Thank you,
that's all.
Sarah.
Yeah. It prints on my mind.
Is Purple Rain like a famous song that Michael Jackson or somebody like
Yes.
that?
Right.
There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
You see,
That's
why
what was
would
in
we
my
listen to
brain.
this? What does that have to do with the environment? Well, I guess if we got purple rain, it would have a lot to do with it.
As long as it's not radioactive.
Right. Okay, so we have some guests. Mark Botkin. How do you pronounce your name? Botkin?
Rodkin, yes, exactly.
And then Margarita Azian and guest Gaetana. So welcome.
Thank you.
So what we're going to do is, first of all, let's talk about the supervisor sent me a note from Jewel, who was the administrator of the CCA last time, the Community Choice Aggregation. And there's a lull in that. They're waiting for new regulations to possibly start another one up. In the meantime, they were recommending that we promote community solar in its stead, because that is, renewable energy, and it is, savings to the customers. So Fred asked what my opinion was, and they were going to use Nextamp. I said I had some reservations about Juul's performance last time, but I was really impressed. I had Nextamp. I think Mike has it. A few other people have it. And Nextamp is an excellent company. They've done some things that were really good. So I told him that was a positive. He didn't get back to me. I assume they're going to ask us to possibly do an outreach program to get people to sign up for that. So I wanted to see if anybody was interested in helping that out. I don't know exactly how it'll show up. It may just be, an email outreach. It may be a Zoom meeting or something like that. But I mean, it might need a hand with that. And I wondered, first of all, if you think we should do that, if we should put the energy out to promote it.
I would like to know more about it, because the last time there were some problems with how the community, now I can't remember the initials, but, if we had a little bit more updated knowledge, it might be
Okay,
helpful.
I'm going to send you the note, and it has a complete rundown. It has access to their site, which is really user-friendly. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So I will send that on to you. The information that they provided for outreach is very complete. So I'll send that on to you so that you'll feel better about it. I felt really good about it.
If
you
you,
know.
do you mind sending it out to all of us?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that. Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
Skip, is there a
Skip, if
way
I may
to,
jump in here, when we did it the last time, we did the community solar and we did it in cooperation, as you may recall, with Ulster County.
Yes.
And I pretty much handled the process of it. And it was not onerous at all. It wasn't very time consuming. It looks, from what I saw, what Skip said to me anyway, was they had the materials were already prepared. It looked like,
Yeah.
these are your outreach materials, and just kind of send them out. So I just wanted to let everyone know that if it's similar, it sounds like it's even going to be easier than the past. That
Yeah.
and I'm sure once everyone gets to see them, you'll kind of, as Elizabeth said, just to get a better idea. But
Okay, I'll do that. I'll send that information around.
Yeah.
Stephen?
that sounds great what Mary said, that was there a way to email all the citizens of the town of Saugerties?
I don't know. We can
What was
we
the
can talk
list you
about
used?
we could talk about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I think we should do something like that.
Okay, great.
As long as it's minimum work.
I will send that information around and wait for what Freddie has to say.
Also, Skip, Nexamp has a website with videos, and all of us can go on that, and they explain the program. So it might be a good.
I think that's involved. I think that's in the materials that they sent. So I'll send it.
Oh, okay, great.
I think that's there. Mary?
Yeah, I just want to make one more important point, and it's regarding our community climate action plan. That is a suggestion of a way to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We've done it in the past, it worked. So I think, given the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, that it's another reason to really seriously consider and perhaps go ahead with that program.
Okay, great. All right. So I'll send the materials around, and then, hopefully it'll be, but you see how simple it is. All right. So Paul Rubin made a presentation to the town board on October 1st, and I sent you all his materials that he'd done. He made some points that he thought should be put toward the water use, in the DGEIS, although it was too late for his comments. There was a suggestion that they may do a supplemental EIS. So I wanted just to talk about the materials and see what you thought, where we might put energy into this, or where we would want to be going forward with this. In relation to this, I did talk with Adriana to get some feedback. And some good news is that they are considered, of the 220 gallon amount that they say they have access to, they are not going to let them have all that they're going to reserve some for the town. So although they can draw that much water, that was a concern, how much that they can get to 220 gallons, but should they have all that? That's under consideration, and how much to actually allow them is under consideration. So that's a positive point. Also, about the 50 gallons from the Montana well, they want a requirement of how they're going to get it there and what the environmental effects was going to be of moving that across the state route before they give them access to that. So I'm glad they're looking into that. I guess the kind of negative news in terms of if we want to do EIS, can you do EIS, is that that information is always already under consideration. So it's not new information. So there's a plus and minus to that. Adriana and Max have not looked at Ruben's statement. They will. They couldn't do it by this meeting, but she would get back and kind of give us a lowdown on what they thought his contention is that this would be grounds to institute a supplemental EIS. I don't have expertise on that. Mary's gathered some information about that, but Adriana will go over that, and she's had experience before about what might be the requisite elements to be able to do a supplemental EIS. Also, Zach, late breaking news, Zach requested the presence of the floor, privilege of the floor, for Paul Rubin to give a more complete explanation of his opinions and his issues. And so that hopefully will be coming up. So we could look at his information there and decide whether, it adds enough relevant information, new information to ask for a supplemental EIS.
Will that be the next town board meeting, Skip?
It's undetermined right now. He just sent me that note today. I don't know. He said there hasn't been a response from the town, so maybe we can get better information. Zach's supposed to be here, but he's going to be late, so I will let him explain that later. So is there what I'm doing is seeking other comment. I know Mary investigated from the seeker handbook what would be involved in affording a supplemental EIS. So I think I'd like to have Mary go next and say
Yeah,
what she.
okay, Skip, thanks. Yes, I did take a look at the seeker handbook, and I looked at the section where the question is when a supplemental EIS is needed. And the handbook states that one condition would be that the sponsor proposes a change. So we're not dealing with that issue right now. The other reason that it might be needed is that one or more adverse environmental impact not adequately addressed in either the draft EIS or the final EIS. So that's one issue that would call for the supplemental EIS to be needed. The other aspect would be if there's new information provided. And then they talk about the criteria for new information. And the criteria for new information is if it's important and if it's relevant. Those were the two criteria for judging whether this new information should be considered. They also, the handbook also talked about, is the new information accurate? And also, is the new information, and they use the word genuinely new. So I thought that was an interesting adjective to describe whether it was genuinely new. I think that's going to be a really important point. Mm-hmm. And it talks about also, not only was the information covered in the, let's say, EIS or draft EIS, but was it covered in enough detail? So I think that's another nuance about how they're going to judge whether a supplemental EIS is going to be needed. So they also talked about to look at the level of detail in an EIS and specific follow-up actions being considered. So it's not only the information that's in there, whether there's enough detail, but they talk about the specific follow-up action being considered. So, and exactly what that specific follow-up action being considered is, I don't know at this point exactly what they mean by that. And they didn't really go into detail in the handbook, but that's a quote from the handbook. The other aspect of this issue is when a supplemental EIS may be required. So they make the distinction between when it's needed and when it's required. And they say that it may be required during a review of an EIS. It may be required based on comments from involved agencies and also from the public. And they say it may be required after the lead agency has accepted the final EIS and the finding statement. Right. So that's another aspect of this that's kind of interesting too, that it could be required after after the final EIS and after the finding statements. And I didn't go into detail in the handbook, but it did talk about, but I would, I don't know, they didn't go into detail what the criteria there would be, but I would assume it would be similar to the criteria for it being included after an EIS or after an EIS. And then finally, this was another point that the handbook made. For the GEIS, which is what we're dealing with, supplemental EISs, okay, for a GEIS, supplemental EIS after findings is typical. So that I thought was an interesting thing to consider. And finally, the other point that was made was that the supplemental EIS is prepared by the sponsor, but the lead agency needs to agree with the supplemental. So that's what I was able to glean from my look at the handbook. I don't know if anybody else has had a chance to do that and might be able to add something to this, or have more detail than I have.
I had talked to Skip about the section on findings, and you just mentioned that. And so that any of this material or an additional position of the CAC, based on what we learn and find out, can be put forth in the findings. And that's after that's after the final GEIS. So this whole thing about legal cases and suing and all of this stuff would not pertain to information and positions, I think, in the findings section. And we're an interested party.
Yeah, we're an interested party, not an involved party. So there's the distinction there. So, but in relation to what you just said, Adriana used that same term typically after the findings, although in other places it says after the EIS is brought forward, because that's when you find out about these details or not. We don't know any details yet, so I have to wait for the EIS to determine. And there's a question up about who makes that determination of genuality or importance. That's a question that I can't answer. But again, those kind of questions I'm hoping that Adriana can answer. We'll put that in, her overview of what, would institute enough importance, genuinity, if that's a word, or, relevance to institute. And so that's where we'd go for that information. Stephen?
I think what Paul Rubin prepared is incontestably relevant and important, and it's not new in the sense that he discovered it after July 28th. He knew a lot of that before July 28th, but it had never been put on the record. I don't think we should bother ourselves with whether it's genuinely new. This is information that has never been treated so far, and it's new in that sense. So I'm heartily in favor of getting the town board alerted to the need to listen to Paul Rubin. And there are a couple of options. One is they could proactively, I think they could say to the writers of the potential GEIS, we think there's something you haven't covered yet. Can you, and as you prepare your final version, cover it? So that, in my opinion, if the lead agency looked right now at the consideration of use of the water, it would have to make a finding that this has been inadequately handled, and there should be a supplemental EIS developed for it. So they could either take it on before it comes to the finding stage or after? I think it would be better to do it before it comes to the finding stage. But somebody would have to find that right now, what's in the DGEIS is not adequate.
Okay, again, she's gonna go over that and make a judgment on, I don't know who makes this decision. We'll have to find that out. And she can give us guidance on what section she thinks might qualify and what not, what might not. So, and that would guide us in what we want, how we want to approach the town board with a recommendation. Mary?
Yeah, just to address the issue of the supplemental EIS going after the findings. I think that goes to the first point as to what would be required or needed, which would be if the sponsor makes a change in what they're proposing. So we can well imagine that after the findings, and given the generality of this GEIS, that there may very well be changes. So that would then trigger a supplemental EIS after the findings. So that was kind of my read on that.
Okay.
And to the point about the when to suggest, if that's appropriate, a supplemental EIS, since we don't have the final EIS yet, we don't know what's in there. We don't know whether the information is complete, and maybe some of the points that Mr. Rubin has made are in there, and to sufficient detail. So it seems to me that it would be prudent to wait to see what the EIS says before considering. And as far as the draft EIS goes, that the comment period for that has closed. So I suspect that is why requesting a supplemental to the draft may not be appropriate at this time. So that's just my thinking on it, but I could be, I welcome others' thoughts on it.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to call on Elizabeth first. Margaret, I'm going to call on you, but we're giving the committee members the first go around with the question. So if there's no questions after this, then I'll get to you, okay?
Sure.
So Elizabeth.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that I came across, I think as part of a case, that Article 15 is controls about the DEC has final say on whether or not to grant permits regarding water. And I don't know if that's been looked into.
Yes, I can talk to that. I
Okay.
asked Adriana about that. And when that comes in is after there's a development plan done. Zoning's done, development plan's done, and they look at that thing and they make a final determination on what they feel based on that final, plan. So that's
Okay.
where DEC doesn't come in before the final plans are made.
Okay.
Okay, so Margarita? Marguerite?
It's me, Janet.
Oh, okay.
Speak. Just a very short little postscript, and maybe it's not of interest to the CAC, but Paul Rubin, who appeared to be speaking, along with a lot of other Beautiful Sororities people at that meeting, is not connected with Beautiful Sororities in any way. He is completely independently motivated and independently operating hydrologist. And I just want you guys to know that in case it matters. That's all.
Okay. All right. So do we have any other comments on this?
I was interested in what you said about the thresholds. And when I looked through the Paul Rubin's work, there were different numbers. I mean, he goes from the proposed number at a maximum build out and something like well over 300 gallons per minute, all the way down to his proposal of 26 gallons per minute and everything in between. So what you're saying is that right now, the number is 220 gallons per minute, but that's not necessarily what will be permitted.
Exactly. said
Right.
beginning, they are
Right.
considering, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, so where do we go with that? I mean, obviously,
Because
go
I
ahead.
think what'll happen is we'll see that's what Mary's point was, that we'll see in the EIS at least where that lands, what they're permitted. And we'll see the evidence that backs that up. So if we see that, there isn't sufficient evidence, we think there should be more evidence, we think the number's wrong, and we have facts to back that up, then that's part of our ask, for a supplemental.
Well, would you even need a supplemental if we're talking about thresholds?
Well, I mean, if you wanted to change what they said, if you think there needed to be more study, you didn't agree with what they said, and there should be more study, yes, that's how you do it.
But the 220 gallons per minute is just data. It doesn't mean the town accepts that as the amount of water that can be drawn. The town can create a threshold at any level, I would guess.
I don't know that.
So
I thought that was
I'm
this.
just pushing that we have to see what is a reasonable amount of water to take out of the aquifer and still.
Well, that's another point.
Mhm.
We know they can take that much out, but Mark has made other points, other people have made points that maybe that's the number they can draw. But then there's other comments relative to that will advise that, will change that, how much they can draw, whether it be the needs of the town or other environmental needs that we might bring to bear. And I think that's what Paul Rubin is bringing up, that there are drought conditions, and Mark has brought up a couple other points. There are other conditions that would advise what could be drawn. So that would be a study for the supplemental EIS. That's how I see it. I might be wrong, but that's how I understand the process. Stephen?
Seems to me that the 220 gallons per minute and the DGEIS, basically they're assuming that will be available. And that's the dangerous part. That I don't think when the town reviews, when the lead agency reviews the final GEIS, they can't set a threshold. They can't say we'll only allow you such and such. They can only say we think that 220 is too much. But DEC has to, so somebody has to come in later. So I think that they're very arrogantly assuming that they can get all the use possible out. And we come back to the question of what is reasonable use.
Reasonable use.
Right.
That's what I said. They are considering that.
I'm very much in favor of it, being sure that Zach gets a hearing for Paul Rubin.
I think that's
on the record. Last time he spoke, but he was off the record.
I don't think that's not directly the case. It's
Really?
not on the record relative to the seeker process, but it was on the record relative to the town. It is on the record.
I don't understand the difference.
Well, it's not part of the seeker hearing, but it wasn't like we're putting our fingers in our ears.
Well, do we have to, does he have to come again then, or?
He's
the
going to
town
come
board
again and speak,
supposedly,
and he's going to have the privilege of the floor, so he's going to have more time.
but he already had the privilege, but I see for only 3 minutes.
Right. Yes. And that's the point.
So this would give him as much time as he wants.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So that we can look at that and
Yes.
find out in that, again, I'm having help from Adriana, who's gone through this whole process and can evaluate, okay, this is something that would count for, we should consider an EIS, or this is not.
Yes.
So that if he has a full chance of laying his case out, if there are enough facts in there, and they're significant, they're genuine, I don't know. Those terms seem very subjective to me also. But if, there's enough credible evidence there to open up a subsequent, then we can ask for that based on, or anybody can ask for that based on that information. That's why I think
Yes.
it's important that Paul speak again and that Adriana be there to listen to him, and that we be there and that we make that
Absolutely.
decision relative to what Mary's found out and what of those things that he presents matches with those criteria to invoke supplemental. Carol?
Um, I I was two things. One is I was curious about the open space overlay and whether what's happening with that in the background and have we heard anything? And that's one of the parameters that can constrain the development, as can water. And it seems like, each time we come up with something, it will further define what's available for the developers to do.
Right.
I would also, I don't know, do you think we should recommend to the town board that they give Paul Rubin the floor, or do we
Well,
need to
it's
make a
already done.
recommendation, or they're already doing it anyway?
It's
It's a
we
done
can talk
deal.
to Zach about what it's, I
Okay,
suppose since a board member did it, that they're not gonna refuse him. Maybe.
no, I was just gonna say that our board, our CAC could recommend that this happen, but at any rate.
Well, let's ask Zach. We got a couple questions for Zach,
Yeah,
but that would be one of them, whether our input would further that. And if it would, we should do it. I believe we should do it.
Mhm.
So, Mary?
So just to follow up on Carol for a second, okay, Zach is going to ask, but would it also be appropriate to come directly from the CAC to the town board? So
Well,
that
that's what he just
it
asked.
has the reinforcement of the CAC behind it. So it's more official, let me put it that way. So
Okay.
that would be up for consideration.
Okay.
Whether in addition to Zach's asking, Skip, if
Okay.
you think it would be give more weight or,
I'm sure it would. I'm sure it would.
okay, so then the question is there any reason to believe that the town board would not give him privilege of the floor?
I have no idea why they wouldn't. What's probably going to happen is their lawyer is going to get up there and say, you can't listen to any of this. But I mean,
No.
he can say that. He can't, I mean, he can say that, but I talked to Leanne or somebody and they said, because it doesn't go on the official record, because it doesn't go on the seeker record,
Right.
doesn't mean he can't inform the board of certain conditions. So, and Zach's for it. So, I mean, if a person who is conservative and wants that to see done, then, I think that shows that there's, strength across the board to let him speak and to consider what he's saying. Because what he's saying is, it's considerable. And it could be that a lot of those things, like the consideration of how much of the 220 is going to be allocated to them, he is one of his contentions. That's actually in process in the discussions for the EIS. But maybe other things are there and maybe they aren't. But when we see the EIS come out and we hear his comments and we can compare the two, then we can make the case that there needs to be or doesn't need to be a supplemental EIS. That would be the point of listening to him and understanding what parameters were necessary.
Skip, I just wanted to make one other point. I zoomed in on that last meeting and the audio was really not very good.
I
So
left.
How many times have we told him? How many times have we told him?
so my question is, since you were there, Skip, and I know Stephen was there, did Mr. Rubin in any way address the issue of a drought? I did hear
Yes.
that the sponsors, consultants did a test from February to, was it April or so? But my question is, was there anything said, or is the issue of how do we account for a drought period in terms of how much water is there? Like,
Yes.
Mike was saying, like,
Yes.
do we know how much water is there?
Yes, his statement is one of those attachments I gave you.
Yes.
So if you go into one of those attachments, what he said there, what he addressed the town board,
Okay,
one of those attachments is that. And
okay,
he
I'll
did-
take a look at it.
He
Thanks.
did address drought.
Okay, thanks.
And whether or not drought is in, and now maybe nobody's considering drought. Adriana said, I couldn't find it specifically, but I'm sure it was raised by a professional. But, you know, if we look in the EIS and it's not addressed or it's not addressed, you know, adequately, whatever that means, then that would be case for opening a supplemental.
Right.
If
Janet?
just as a point of information, Mr. Rubin did a study more than 10 years ago. And I think we should all look back and see, he worked with a group called Platico. It was a Platico Creek group that was concerned about the level of the Platico and drought. So much of this information is out, including, and we should look at the response of the village. So there's a history here. And this isn't a new issue. The issue of drought has been brought up before.
Right.
And we should delve back into the history and get that information also.
Yeah,
Do you know, Mike, do you know?
Oh,
if
let's raise hands, okay? So everybody's in talking at once, okay? Janet,
Hello?
hello?
Who's
I
talking?
just wanted to speak to Mary's question. We have a transcript of the remark of everything from that presentation, privilege of the floor presentation, including the attorney's remarks, and then Paul Rubin's, then Russell Mead's presentation. And as Mary said, the sound wasn't great, but a lot of it's there. So if you want me to send that to you, I'd be happy to send it to, should I just send it to Skip or Kevin or somebody?
Yeah, if it's not addressed in what Skip mentioned, if it's not addressed in one of the documents that came through, yes, please, I'd be interested in seeing it. The other issue is that I go to the town website to review the tape of the meeting, but the meeting is not posted yet. The September meetings and the October meeting is not posted on the town website, so I can't just go back and try to pick up the information.
Well, it's a bit of a rough transcript, but you can make of it what you will, or what you.
If it's not a trouble to you, Janet,
The only attachment I had was Paul's written statement. So Janet might have, she has much more than I sent out, so.
And the other point on this is that he is going to speak again, hopefully, to have privilege of the floor at a town board meeting. So at that point, we may be able to get even more information.
Okay, well, I'll just send it to Skip or Kevin or whoever I should send it to, and then they can send it out, and you can, as I said, make of it what you can.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, just send it to Kevin. He'll send it out.
Okay.
Okay. Carol?
The Platico Creek information is on the back of what you submitted to us. The Blue Mountain Reservoir has on the back sheet the list of conclusions and recommendations that address the Platico Creek drought issues.
Okay, good. Okay. Others? Mark, I know that I spoke with Mark this afternoon. I didn't know what time there would be. He asked that he might, have a couple of points. If you can be concise about those, he has a couple of pretty good points that might, lead to wanting a supplemental. So Mark, would you like to speak?
Sure. Thanks, Skip. There were a number of things that I thought about. And so first, I just want to introduce myself to you as not being a geologist or hydrogeologist. I'm a microbiologist by training, but I tried to read the reports as carefully as I could and look at the data that was presented in graphical form in Appendix A from the Labella report. Just as a point of interest now that I'm looking at, in the Labella report, which I think is Appendix A, Figure 13 shows the drawdown period, which was 35 days. And then it shows the period of stabilization, which they put at 31 days. And yes, they did do the pumping during what would be an optimum period in terms of the well itself. In figure 13, they've also charted rainfall, and it appears from the graph that they had a rather, I would say, optimal rainfall during the period of drawdown, and they had a lower than optimal. It looks like, I think they say on average you get 0.3 of an inch per day. So if you look at that graph, you see that there were periods in which they had more rain than that during the drawdown and less than that during the stabilization. Okay, so the points that I've made are these, and that is that Labella has a disclaimer at the end of the executive summary. And so we can describe that, and I think it's an accurate description, as being boilerplate. In other words, it's there all the time. And so we tend to discount it. But what I would say is that when you make a disclaimer like that, and you do it every time, let's assume that's what that means, it means that Labella understands, and I think is waving a red flag, but they probably didn't intend it that way, that don't come back to us later when you're halfway through your build out and
Yep.
you're only getting 150 gallons per minute or 75. What we've said in the disclaimer is that the pumping test is only accurate for those periods of time when we measured it.
Right.
What happens later is anybody's guess. And so what I would say, and I think Russell Urban, I can't ever get his name right, call him Russell, right? Russell said that the main mechanism by which the aquifer is fed is not through the ground, which is the aquifer is overlain by 90 feet of clay, if you look at the report, but it comes from the higher western and south and northwestern regions where there's rock. And so water tends to move across the rock, as I think Russell said, in a rather efficient way as it doesn't through clay. So it penetrates the clay layer and gets down to the gravel near the aquifer. So having said that, the intention of the developers to start to take apart the 69-acre area in the highest western region and to build in the area beneath it, both of which are rich in wetlands and vernal pools, they will inevitably damage the ability of the forest ecosystem to feed that single mechanism by which water enters the aquifer. In his terms, in his words, there's really one way water gets in. And so the CAC report, I think, was brilliant in saying, do not disturb those 69 acres and then the area beneath it, which I think is called subzone 4. Do not disturb any of that because according to, I think my understanding is, but I would like to check it with Paul, is that the single way in which water enters into the aquifer is the area that you folks have prescribed with your red and black line as the area that needs to be left alone, and would also add considerably to the 73.5%. So I think that's a key point in terms of whether water will be adequately supplied to the aquifer. The only other thing I would say is the test itself is not a real world test because they measured stabilization for 31 days. In other words, they pumped water for 35 days. And then it says quite clearly, both in a figure and in the text, they turned it off. Although Russell's response to Fred's question initially, I think, was confusing. And his response to Leanne's question, I think, more accurately stated what the report reflects. And that is, after 35 days, they turned the well off. And then they waited. How long did it take for it to stabilize and come back to its original level? And that was 31 days. What's interesting and also terrifying about that is that under real world conditions, nobody turns the spout off. The water is being drawn 7/24, as they say, 24/7, 365 days a year. No one's turning it off. And so during periods when there is a drought and people keep demanding water, the ability of the aquifer to recover is significantly reduced. And so it remains at that stabilized low level or lower. And I think that's an issue of real concern and speaks to your recommendation that these two areas of hardwood forest, which are essential to feeding water into the aquifer, be left alone. And I think that should be a line that they are not allowed to cross. And I really appreciate the fact that you said that on your graph. I'm not sure that the town board agrees with that. And I say that honestly, I don't know where they are on that, but they certainly ought to listen to an advisory group that is supposed to advise them how to move forward, given this terribly important thing that will affect everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Skip.
That's right. That's right. Does anybody else want to make comment on this? Okay, so I think with the information we have, we think we should wait to see what happens in the EAIS. We should look again at Paul's initial talk and listen to what he's going to say with privilege of the floor next time. And then compare notes, see what is in there and see if there are elements that he's brought forward that qualify vis-a the seeker handbook to, invoke a supplemental EIS. And on that basis, make a recommendation to the town to do so with those and citing those facts and figures and things. There's a lot of subjective things in there, and I want to find out what that is, reasonable, genuine, significant. I don't know what all that means, but if it's up to us to decide that, then we will decide what is genuine, real, and adequate, and present that to the town as a reason for a supplemental. Mary?
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with Stephen's comment earlier. Even though a supplemental could be done after the final EIS and after the findings, I mean, I think Stephen's point is well taken, that if the evidence shows that there is an inadequacy, that there's not enough detail, that this important information has not been considered, the CAC should really consider recommending the supplemental EIS at the point when the EIS is finished, and not wait until further down the line after findings, et cetera. So I would concur with that.
Okay. All right. I see Zach.
If I could just say something for a minute, when I began, I said I'm not a geologist or a hydrogeologist. So I don't know if what I'm saying is true. And it's more important to be accurate than wanting to be right. And I'm interested in trying to provide information that's helpful. If it turns out that it's not, well, it's not. That's fine. I don't want to do or say anything that impairs the ability of our concern for this area and its aquifer to be treated with great care. So what I'm going to try to do is to contact Paul, who I hope will listen to what I have to say and say, please don't ever say that again, it's completely wrong. Or that makes sense, and perhaps we should address that.
Okay.
So I want to know that it's helpful, not that in a general way, people who aren't professionals in the area think it makes sense. I think it's important for a professional person to listen and say, yeah, you probably don't want to say that. Or, good point, we'll try and address it. So that's where I am on that. And I'm going to try and reach out to Paul and get his professional opinion on my thoughts and go forward from there.
Great. I think that's very important, because when we can express our own opinions as cabinet makers or,
Exactly.
files and stuff, but if we hear it from Paul, then, and we can quote it from a professional, I think has a lot more weight. And it also informs us to make sure that what we're saying is factual and relevant.
Exactly.
So I think that's good. And his reaction, I would be interested in hearing. And hopefully when he has the privilege of the floor, that he might address those questions also, because those seem very, very salient points, So,
Right.
so I see Zach's here. Zach?
Hey Skip, how are you?
How are you?
Jack?
I'm doing well. My apologies for being late.
That's all right. That's all right. So, is there any update? Will Paul Rubin be afforded the privilege of the floor? And do you know when that would be?
I can't say when it will be. I'm hoping we can schedule it for the first excuse me, it would be the second meeting of November, just given the fact that that first meeting of November, there's a couple public hearings. But I'm gonna shoot for one of those 2 days. Like I said, I did make the recommendation that he is given this time, Mary, just to speak to your point, and if it's not too much of a hassle, if you or anybody else from the committee would like to draft some sort of support letter for that and send it to me, I can share that with the other board members because, excuse me, like I said, when I mentioned that this was pivotal to give Paul this time to give his information, I didn't receive a response. So I want the rest of the board to know that, this is being taken seriously, and I think it's the best thing, for transparency and whatnot. So I think a letter of support would be helpful from the committee.
Done.
Right.
Good.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Done.
Thank you, Carol.
All right. So that's our way forward. We've got the information on what the requirements are for a supplemental. We'll listen to Paul. We'll get feedback from Adriana and get back and see where we want to go from there. See if there's sufficient evidence to go forward on that. Seems there is, but let's make sure for sure. Okay.
And Skip,
Yes.
and Skip, you'll prepare a memo to the town board
Yes.
requesting that
Yes.
Mr. Rubin.
Yes.
Yes, be.
I
Thank you.
mean, do we need a vote? Is everybody in favor of
Yeah, I
that?
think you do.
Okay. Everybody in favor of requesting?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay,
Two
great.
hands.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
Or-
All right, great. All right, so we're done with that. And we got a little bit of time because Mary's going to make a presentation on CCAP, community Jesus, climate action plan. There's so many C's in my head, it's kind of crazy. One thing I want to know, since Zach's here, do you have anything else to report? One specific question I have is, did we get funding for next year?
That I did respond to your email as I was driving home. That we're still discussing what that section of the budget's going to look like. It looks like we're probably leaning towards restoring funding levels from last budget cycle. I
Great.
know there was some back and forth on if we were going to do a bit of a cut across the board or if we were going to kind of zero everything out and go to like a town board approval process for those expenditures. My guess, my feeling right now, judging the temperature of the rest of the board, is that we're just going to revert to previous funding levels, which I'm perfectly fine with. That's what I advocated for your budget line. So I have no issue with that. But hopefully we'll have a concrete answer on that sometime this week after we meet again.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Well, that's good news. We're still in business. All right. So
And then Skip, just so you're aware, hi buddy. After Mary's presentation for the CCAP, I do have to log off. My wife's working late tonight, so I got to get dinner started and whatnot.
Okay. What are we having?
Yeah, right.
Never mind.
I was trying to grill chicken, but little man might not be too receptive to me being on the grill right now. So I'm hoping chicken and asparagus.
Okay. Oh, wow.
That's
Jeez.
good.
Mary,
Sounds
have you had
good.
that?
I'll be over.
There's a question in the chat room as
Oh,
to
I'm sorry.
who determines.
Well, yeah, I don't know how to answer that. Maybe it's us. I don't know. I guess.
No, it would be the town board. It would be the lead agency who would
Sure.
determine whether the information was pertinent, whether it was important
So
and
we'll
and
present
relevant.
it and they'll say-
It would be up to the lead agency, as I understand it.
That would be mine too.
So we present it and they say yay or nay.
And also, but also they would have to justify in the findings. The town board, the lead agency will have to justify their conclusion and their finding. So, and then we get into a whole other situation, which would be whether or not then that would be challenged. So, but we're not going there yet. So,
Right.
Okay.
Stay out of the courts.
Okay. All right, great. So Is it time for the CCAP presentation?
Yeah.
Actually, do I see anybody else coming in for that? I put the invite for a bunch of people. I think we should have it anyway. We're gonna have it again. I mean, it's required. You know, I think we should hear it and to inform ourselves and be able to relate to others about what it's about. And also maybe, you know, double down our efforts to get more people here and on the 23rd, next Thursday, to hear this report, because it's important. So,
Okay, Kevin is going to cue up the slides. I prepared a slide presentation on the Community Climate Action Plan, which of course we're calling the CCAP, just for ease of enunciation. And I thought I would start, but I believe everybody on the Conservation Commission knows that this action is a recommended one by the Climate Smart Communities program. And as the town, as a climate smart community participant, looks to the program for actions that will help reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So what I did for this is just an overview of the plan. It talks about the components of the plan, et cetera. And this is really as an informative overview for the public. So I think I'm going to be talking to everybody who already knows this part of it. So let's go to the first slide then. Okay, so what is the Community Climate Action Plan? It's a plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. It sets reduction goals for the community, and it presents strategies to achieve the goals. So next slide. It targets sectors in the community emitting the most greenhouse gases. It establishes a baseline year by which to measure reductions, and it's based on a greenhouse gas inventory. Next slide. Okay, the inventory, as you know, is for the year 2022. And that inventory shows that the community emitted 445,000 metric tons of CO2. And the inventory identifies emissions by sectors. There are 9 sectors, and the inventory was provided by the Ulster County Department of the Environment. As some of you may recall, no cost to the town. The county has an inventory for the entire county, how many greenhouse gas emissions have been emitted throughout the entire county. And then each municipality got an inventory. So when we saw this inventory back in, I think, a year ago, 2024, it seemed like a good idea to use this as a basis to develop the plan. So the next slide. Okay, the key findings, these are the 9 different sectors of the community. And as you can see, the large green area of the pie is transportation. The largest emitter, 55% of our emissions come from transportation, the cars, the buses, the trucks, et cetera. And as we discovered, the second largest, which is that burnt orange section of the pie, the industrial energy sector. And as we know now, that is the facility, that is Northeast Solite, that is emitting the second largest amount of greenhouse gases. And then the third largest sector is residential. That's the dark blue section. 12.3% of the emissions come from residential. So if we go to the next slide, you can see what the actual emissions are. Transportation, over 137,000, industrial, over 42,000, residential, almost 31,000. And as you go down the different sectors, you can see what the different emissions are. And of course, agriculture is the least with 135 metric tons. So the total emissions for 2022 comes to the 445,000 metric tons of CO2. So the next slide shows our baseline year, which, as you may remember, we got from the state. The state did an inventory for the year 2010. We're saying we're going to use that year as our base year from which to measure the reductions. So in 2010, we had 267,287 metric tons. And again, the three largest sectors emitting were transportation, industrial, and residential. And you can see the really big drop, the big increase from 2010 from transportation from 120 up to almost, what was it, 130 something. And industrial is about the same. And residential has actually dropped from about 52,000 down to about 31,000. So we've seen a decrease there.
And agriculture has really dropped too.
Pardon me?
Agricultural has from this point has dropped to almost a quarter of what it was. Is that because we're losing agriculture?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. And there was nothing in the inventory that was explanatory in terms of the numbers.
I mean,
Yeah, that was a big drop, agriculture.
I'm sorry, it's not germane to what you're saying, but
no, but it's, no, it's an interesting observation. Sure. Right. Sure. And I mean, commercial, is what in 30,000 in roughly 30,000 compared to, let's go back to 2022.
Right. Wow.
7. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
it would be interesting to create a slideshow where we could have those side by side.
Yeah, that would be good.
And so that we could see what went up, what went down, just as a suggestion.
Yeah, but it would be so small in a slide. Yeah, I would have liked to have done a double, screen. But in a slide, wouldn't it be so small that you?
Well, I don't know. You could probably put it just right next to the, where you have this thing, and right next to it, just
in parentheses
above the top there, you could put 22, and then right next to it, put 2010. Drop that total emissions thing at the bottom, and then you just have numbers the same size and the same font as you have here. You see what I'm saying? Like, in other words, transportation 137, and then the next line over, there's an empty space there. Write what it is was in 2010, and just eliminate
also be
that.
done as a bar graph.
Right.
It could be done as a bar graph too.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
Just if somebody wants to do that, somebody wanted to do that, and we'll plug it in. I think it would be a better visual.
I don't have the ability.
Yeah, I don't have the skill to do that.
I could take a crack at it. Just remind me I made that commitment.
No, it would be a better visual.
Yeah, side by side it's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
do that, Leslie. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, it would be a better.
Yeah, just keep after me.
Okay. Come on, Leslie. Come on, Leslie.
It's in the plan. All these numbers are in the plan. So, I guess the 2010 is not in the plan. It's just the percentages.
Steve, you have your hand up. Is that intentional?
Who does?
Steven. I guess he's not listening.
Stephen, you're muted.
Agricultural emissions in agriculture don't count emissions from operating machinery. That's counted under transportation. So most of the emissions are related to fertilizer use. So I don't know whether there's been a big drop off in that, or as Skip says, less acreage being fertilized. It's interesting that agriculture doesn't. It literally produces quite a lot of CO2, but it's counted under transportation by the EPA methods.
That's
so. If I remember right, it had something also to do with how many cattle, right, Mary?
It might. That's right.
Methane.
Yeah, methane. Yep. So anyway.
Well, that was my point. Maybe there's just a lot less cows.
Yeah.
which is less dairy farming,
Mhm.
so it indicates not so much, an improvement in the agriculture, usage, but a decrease in agriculture, period. So,
Right.
go ahead, Mary, I'm sorry.
No, I think we're really limited, at least I feel very limited, because we have no narrative to go with the different sectors and how
Mhm.
things were determined. We have no background explanatory documents to explain a lot of this. So
Right.
I feel limited in that regard. So I don't know. I don't know that it's even available, but we have what we have, so we're making do with what we have.
Right, this wasn't a criticism, this was an observation.
Oh, no, I understand. And I'm just kind of a little frustrated myself because I can't explain.
Right.
And transportation increased so much in
Right.
those 12 years. How come? You know, what explains that?
What, do we have more people living here or?
Could
Huh,
be.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Population 2010 versus 2022.
Right, really, that would be interesting.
Yeah,
I think it's the population was pretty level. I don't think we've had that much growth.
I was thinking it
Max-
was fairly level too. Huh? More people of buying cars and driving cars. I don't know.
Right.
or maybe driving larger cars. I mean, we see so many
That's-
SUVs and larger, more
Mhm.
vehicles that it more
Mhm.
more emissions. Carol,
I,
did Carol have her hand up?
no, I didn't, but I was thinking that when we got that report from Ulster County, we did have one page that helped explain how they got to some of these, how they differentiated, between agriculture and transportation. And they did mention cows, is what I remember from agriculture. But anyway, that was somewhere, that one page that it helped explain how they got to some of these numbers.
Okay. All righty. So shall we move on?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so the next slide is, I think, 2010. Okay, the reduction goals. We said we reduce 30% by 2030 from the 2010 levels, 40% by 2040, 85% by 2050, and 100% zero emissions by electricity from 2050. And as you may recall, the Climate Smart Communities program really recommends that we align our goals with the state goals. But when we talked about that, the state goal is one of the state goals is to reduce emissions 40% by 2030. And we thought that was really very, very unrealistic. And also the state baseline year is 1990 and ours is 2010.
That's
So
true.
the idea was to align as closely as possible with the state, but I think we all agreed 40% by 2030 is really hard to achieve. I think 30% by 2030, we've already reduced the emissions by about 17,000 greenhouse gas metric tons since 2010, from 2010 to 2022. So I don't know. Anyway, these are the goals that we had talked about. And then the next slide talks about the strategies to reduce the emissions, transition to electric vehicles, partner with local dealerships to promote EVs, install additional EV charging stations, which we know has been one of the impediments to getting an EV, because are there enough? Where are the charging stations to charge the EV? And then, of course, add bike routes, pedestrian walkways where appropriate. And then the next slide talks about some more ideas and ways to reduce the emissions, encourage carpooling, walking, cycling, reduce driving time, shop locally. That's good for reducing pollution, but it helps the local economy. And then support programs to adopt zero emission vehicle technologies for buses and trucks. And I think that's something that we can do and the town can do as the state comes up with new programs, new policies, new ways to to new technologies to reduce emissions, we should really pay attention to that and support those programs that the state is coming up with. The state has an interesting program. It's called the New York State Truck Voucher Program. So for companies that purchase large fleets, there is a program, the state has a program whereby they issue vouchers and discounts to those companies who transition to EVs, large trucks, EVs rather than gas combustible. And programs like that, that's where you're going to really reduce a lot of your emissions with new technologies and things that are really out of our hands. But I think we can support some of those programs.
Right.
So,
Mary,
yeah.
was there, I've been hearing a lot recently about UCAT and various problems it's been running into. Do you have any updated information as to whether that's been improved now? It had something to do with administrative problems they were running into, because UCAT could be a very helpful thing for people to get around.
I'm not
That
familiar.
was, I think that those issues were more in their scheduling than anything else. It didn't really
Okay.
have to do with the physical buses. They weren't having trouble with the buses. They just made some changes that they had trouble with their scheduling and where.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
So that's not relevant to this.
Okay.
So can I ask, I know I didn't raise my hand, but I tried. It didn't work. There was a previous slide about 100% by 2050, but it said something about by electric something, and I wasn't clear what that meant. 100% zero emissions by electricity.
Yeah, I guess from electricity.
Okay.
It should probably say, from. So
Zero emissions.
that would be, yeah.
I'm yeah. Okay, so that's what you meant. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, I have to change that one. Okay. Next slide. Okay, carpooling. For the residential, this is your bailiwick here, Carol. Conduct home energy audits, right?
Yep.
Install and weatherize homes and upgrade heating and cooling homes with heat pumps. So those are some of the ideas to help reduce emissions in the residential sector. And next slide. Consider installing solar panels. We've done some work on that, right, Carol?
Yep.
Participate in renewable energy supply programs. That's why, CCA, if that can come back, that I think is an important way to reduce emissions, and participate in community solar. So hopefully, Skip, what we talked about earlier, that can come to fruition and that the town can offer community solar again. Okay, and the next slide is industrial. We talked about establishing a task force to recommend greenhouse gas emissions, to reduce, to recommend methods to reduce the emissions from
Solite?
Northeast Solite. Yeah. So, okay, and I think maybe the final next slide. Oh, the next steps. Okay, we have to finalize the draft plan. And Leslie, maybe you could jump in here and see if we've had any comments yet on the plan from the email address?
No comments so far, unfortunately. Yeah, I just checked immediately before this meeting.
Okay. So we'll finalize the draft. We'll recommend the final plan to the town board for approval. And we're going to ask the town board to designate someone to oversee the implementation of the plan and then monitor progress towards reduction goals. And then the next slide is just, this is for the community. Choose climate smart actions. And this is a quote from the plan: urgent action is needed. The extent to which we achieve reduction goals, greenhouse gas emissions, depends on choices made now. And then the final slide is to ask the public to email their comments to the Sorority's Climate Plan at Gmail. And the date for accepting those is November 11th. So that's pretty much it. As you can see, this is really for the general public. So Unfortunately, we don't have many general public here today.
Very helpful, though.
Yeah, and it's a great slideshow. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's very simple, very easy to understand.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's who I thought the audience would be, Carol. Right?
Simple and straightforward.
Simple.
What?
Simple.
No, just the general public, just
Yeah,
the general
no,
public out there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate how you did it. Thank you.
Stephen, you have your hand up.
Oh, going back a couple of slides, Mary, to the recommendation to push community solar. I just wondered if that maybe back one more participated community. That has many meanings to people, ranging from something like the late lamented Columbia Power to things like Nextamp and Green Street. But it doesn't seem to capture a recommendation that people get their entire electricity supply from an ESCO, for example.
Okay, so we really have to be careful not to confuse community solar with your source of power.
Supplier.
Right.
That's a major bugaboo.
I realize that that's very confusing, and I remain confused about it often. But shouldn't there be some mention of the possibility of going to ESCOs like Green Mountain?
You realize how difficult that is.
You mean to
For
navigate?
for the general consumer to go to whatever the state site or whatever, choose an ESCO, vet it for reliability and affordability, and sign up. That's a very, very difficult thing. That's why CCA was formed. It was an answer to that very complicated and risky problem of
Right.
signing up with somebody who you didn't know, so that the CCA would vet these ESCOs and select one, and use, mass marketing power to get people involved in a reliable and affordable ESCO. So yes, that is something that somebody can do, but it's also very tricky, very dangerous. A lot of people, not dangerous in terms of what you're signing into. And, there's a lot of people that signed up, I know, that really got, really had trouble getting out of their contracts and weren't happy with their contracts, and prices got raised and stuff like that. So it's really difficult, and there's a lot of,
Okay.
so to recommend that to someone who's not really very attuned to what's going on is, a dangerous thing to do. And that's why CCAs were brought forth to answer that problem.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a point too about the slides. You have what, 15, 20 minutes to do a slide presentation. I mean, this slide, we could have gone, deep into each one of these areas, but you have 15 or 20 minutes. It's an overview, and that's all it really is. And yeah, I think there's a lot of depth here that's missing, obviously. And one thing, to Stephen's point, I was thinking, instead of say participate in community solar, maybe it should say subscribe to a community solar farm. That might be,
Yeah.
Skip, that
Yeah.
might be a better way of phrasing it.
Right.
That's a nice way. That's actually
Right.
much clearer.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I
That's
do
an
like
easy
that.
fix
Yes.
that I can change. But okay, I welcome your suggestions for how this could be maybe better, because I did it on the fly and I did it real quickly. So maybe you can come up with some ideas that we can put in here that will add to it, but not make it so cumbersome that it's difficult to present. So I leave you with
Well,
that final.
the bar graph was one, and the rewording of the community solar was another. Other than that, I thought it was really straightforward and good.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, what was the first one? I know. of course, it's-
Converting the numbers in
Oh,
the.
yeah, yeah, a side by side.
Right.
Yeah, a
Side
side
by
by side.
side,
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work on the screen, actually, because you have so much. Yeah.
Well,
Leslie, you said you'd take a crack at it?
I will. I'll just need those 2010 numbers. If you can just shoot me a copy of that
Yeah.
slide.
Right. I
You
can do
said,
that.
yeah, they're not in there. It's percentage represented as percentages in the plan or the draft plan.
Yeah. And the trick is make it in a font size that people can actually read. That's yeah, that's the other thing. Okay, so those are two things. Those are two changes. So if you think of anything else that we can, add to it that might be more informative, just
Well-
text me. Elizabeth?
think
Yes,
it's
I
really
recall
good.
a long, long time ago when I was studying for the bar exam, there was one bar review course that had subcategories, and if at some future time, if you wanted to say have a sort of appendix saying, if you want to learn more about this, refer to that, subsequent information, but that can get complicated too if you're trying to get an overview.
Yeah. Yeah, again, it's always who's your audience, right?
Mhm.
And the audience is, for this anyway, was just the general public. So,
Right.
okay.
Well, kudos.
Yeah.
yeah, this is excellent.
Kudos. It was
Yes.
very professional. And I think gave a good overview and a good, synopsis of what's happening. And
Very good.
it's too bad there wasn't anybody here but us to critique it.
Hey, Skip, we got the slides. You can take the show on the road.
Ah, what says you, Kimasabi?
If Mohammed won't go, what is it, goes to mountain? What was that saying?
Yeah, have the mountain come to Mohammed.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, well, thank you, Mary. That was really
Thanks,
great.
Mary.
Okay.
Yes, excellent.
Okay, so what else do we got here? Do we have anything on EMC?
Other than I was asked to submit a resume, and I haven't heard anything yet
Okay,
about whether I've been
so you're on board. and
EMC yet or not. What was that?
There hasn't been any meetings since last we met.
No, there's going to be a conference on the 24th and 25th
Right.
of NISAC, and I always forget what ACC stands for. Do you know, Leslie?
New York Association of Conservation Councils.
Councils, that's what I thought. I didn't know what the A was.
Association.
But at any rate, I'm planning to go to that. That's next week. And we'll see. I don't know who makes the decision as to whether I'm on it or off it, or I'll find out. I'll let you know.
Did you send me a copy of the invoice? So you get paid?
Yeah, I did, actually.
Did?
Now that you say that.
You know what? I didn't see it.
Okay, I'll
I'll
have
look
to
back.
look for it. I bet it was encrypted.
No, you got to write it in real letters so I can read it.
Yeah, the problem is that whenever I send things out, I have to remember to put "do not encrypt" in the subject line. Otherwise, you guys get it encrypted and you say, "Oh my God, I'm not opening this." But
Mary,
it really is from me.
Mary?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw Carol's resume. It is so impressive. Carol, your
Oh.
resume was so impressive. So
Well, thank you.
you've
But
had a
I saw
very-
Leslie's and I thought there was no way I could compete. But anyway, Leslie's was really,
How did you see mine? Did they send it to you or something?
somebody sent it to me, yeah.
Oh,
Or
good
maybe
Lord.
Terry
Okay.
did.
Who did?
Maybe Terry from the
Oh,
town
okay.
board.
Oh, maybe.
So she
Okay.
wanted to show me what
Oh.
How to
what I
do a
should look like,
resume.
Oh,
but I
well,
don't.
thank you, Carol. Thank you for being willing to step up, after, and being willing to commit at least 3 years to this. So
Well,
kudos.
Yeah, well, thank you. But it was fun the first time, so we'll see. I'll let you know.
Carol, I
Mary.
wanted to also mention that At the conference, I did see a notice that there's an opportunity for something similar to the round table at the EMC meetings to talk about
Yes,
the accomplishments of your
reminding me.
municipality.
right.
You're aware of that?
Yeah, I was aware of that, and I was going to ask, I think I put it in the note to Terry, is there anything that the town wants me to broadcast about what we're involved with? But obviously, we could bring up this plan right now, the
Yeah.
community action plan,
Hmm.
and talk about that.
Yeah. But Carol, if you go to the CCAP, there's a section called initiatives
Okay,
where I've listed more than 20 of the actions that the town has taken over the
oh,
last
cool.
several years.
Okay,
So,
I'll bring the list. Okay.
yeah, well, some of them are major, really major, like
Uh-huh.
the chiller, replacing the chiller and
Right.
the LED street lights and the off-street lights. Some of
That's
them are
true.
major and some of them are minor. So, yeah,
You
that
did
might be a
such
good
great-
resource,
You did
Carol.
such great work. Thanks to everybody here. Yeah.
Well, thanks to the town, the town really did it, and we just
Yeah.
really documented it, if you think about it. I mean, we did some things right. We did, the fair, and we did solarized orchids and that kind of thing, but the
But-
town actually implemented the action, and what we did is we documented it, so the town got the the recognition as
That's
a
true.
climate smart communities program, town, right?
Right.
So,
But
okay.
the LEDs was a big one in the chiller, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Carol, do you have anything from the planning boards or any news?
No, well, it's next week.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those off, so nothing comes to mind that I thought was important to bring. At Wits Pond, Adriana did reach out to me to see if we had anything from the CAC to say about Wits Pond, and basically the message was that we were happy to have DEC be involved, and therefore we were okay with that oversight. And therefore didn't feel like we needed to weigh in on that in any way. But
Carol, anything on the Dominican Sisters property along the river?
nothing has come up lately.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Where are we at?
That's a good question. I think they gave up for the moment. I really don't know exactly where the, they had come up with a plan to have some market rate kind of housing as well as the senior, to reduce the number of senior apartments. I forget exactly, and the number, I think, of cars, that was the big deal for the neighborhood. And that wasn't even accepted as far as I can tell. So I haven't heard anything since.
Okay.
It's been many, many months, so it may pop up again.
It's not on the agenda for tomorrow night either. No.
It's we're not doing this until the 21st. Our next
okay.
board
Okay.
is the 21st.
Any announcements?
Linda, what about the report on the
Oh, yeah,
cafe?
the repair.
Well, she kind of said that before, but go ahead.
Yeah, she did.
Do it again.
Well, all right, now I'm not muted now, right? You can hear me?
Yep, you're not. Yep.
Now, like I said, we had about 50 people attend. We had about 18 fixers and another 5 or 6 volunteers shuttling people around. We fixed 85% of the items we got, which I think is a really good high rate. Yeah, we had a really successful day. And most people were happy with, even if they couldn't get their item fixed, they were very happy with the advice given by our coaches. So yeah, it was a good day.
It's a wonderful repair cafe, and it's a real great community event.
Absolutely.
And it's so much fun.
We just had fun, it's a real social event. Everybody enjoyed it, so even if you got to sit and wait in line for a little, you're sitting there chatting with people, it's good. Yeah. And you even got a non-jewelry fixer to fix your earrings. So. That's the one good thing I have to say. Everybody jumps in. We normally have a zipper fixer and we have a jewelry fixer, neither of whom could make it that day. So everybody was jumping in. We actually had people from some of our sewers donating their timer tools. And then we ended up going to an mechanical fixer for a zipper, which ended up being fixed by one of our guests who was a tailor. So it was just really hysterical how everybody just jumps in to support each other. So it was a really good time.
And Linda, you'll write up something because you'll have to document this for the
Yeah.
points for the community, for the climate
Right.
smart actions.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
so that'll
right,
be
yeah.
good, because
Yeah.
it'll be for the year. It'll, yeah, good.
Okay, yep.
Any other announcements? Okay, well, thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And
Thank you, Skip.
I'll send the notice of encouragement to have Paul Rubin speak.
Mhm.
And I'll search my emails and find the information on the community solar and send it around to all of you.
Okay,
And
Right.
Kevin,
Thank you,
you'll
Skip.
send the information from Janet to everyone, right? She's going to send it to Kevin. Did I remember that
Yeah.
correctly?
Yeah, that's what she's doing.
Yeah,
I'll send it
okay.
around. Sure.
thank you.
Okay, good night.
Okay, guys.
Good night,
Good night,
everyone.
Good all.
Thank-
Night.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good night.
Bye.